Hello everyone and welcome to this Community Office Hours Meet and Ask Umbraco HQ. Today we will meet the developer advocates. So my name is Henk Boelman, I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft, and today I will moderate and host this Community Office Hour. And today we're going to meet Emma, Arnold and Warren. So let's start with getting to know them first. So Emma, can you introduce yourself? Who are you?
Sure. Emma Burstow, and I am a developer advocate at Umbraco HQ. I'm also an issue tracker hero. I heard myself described that way, and now I'm telling people that's what I am. So I spend my time working both roles, and I joined HQ just over a month ago.
Oh, brand new. So I know you have been working in the community, or not working, it's being active in the community. So I have one question for you. What is your best community moment?
Oh, my best community moment.
Only one.
Only one, okay. My best community moment was probably coming to Code Garden 2018 and having a video that my husband created in secret in collaboration with HQ members put up on the big screen. That was an overwhelming and hilarious time. And then when he arrived a day later, he was allowed a lanyard that said Emma's husband as job role. And that's so that's probably one of my community moments that I loved.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. I don't think many moments can tip on that.
We've still got the lanyard as well. It's in private place somewhere. So.
Very secretly stored away. Good. We're going to dive a little bit later in what developer advocates actually do, what we think it is, and what the community can expect from you. So let's move to Arnold. Arnold, who are you and can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Arnold Visser. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm 37 years old. I've been working with Umbraco HQ now for a year, but I've been in the Umbraco community for around 15 years or something like that, so quite a long time. I have a dual role as well. So I'm partner manager for mainly the Benelux in the Suits team, and I'm a Umbraco advocate. I don't add developer there myself because I talk to a lot of agencies and a lot of developers, but just not only developers, and I help them with their Umbraco questions. And in that role, I mainly help all the Umbraco festivals worldwide to happen. So in the last 12 months of joining HQ, I've been very good in canceling events due to COVID. So let's hope that later this year, in the second half, some real life events will happen. Of course, we have the US festival in April coming up, but that's a virtual one. But I would love to see people in real life again.
Oh, yeah. That would be really good. Cool. Then one question for you. What is your best moment with a partner?
With a partner? Wow.
Yes.
All right. What do you think? Wow.
And I was aiming like a solution they made or something you landed at a partner and you gave some advice and it took like off massively.
Well, I cannot say the customer that is there, but I think it was 2 months ago, I was in talk with one of our gold partners in the Netherlands, and they had some questions around the project they've done. And it was for a big global worldwide brand. And it was a massive Umbraco solution. And I was very surprised by what they built and what customer this was. But sorry, I can't say the name. But I love to see those kind of projects show up unexpectedly like that. Yeah.
Great. Then Warren, what about you? Who are you and what do you do?
So my name's Warren Buckley. I'm from the UK. I've been using Umbraco for, I don't know, as long as I can remember, which is probably like Arnold, maybe 15, 16, maybe even longer, who knows. But yeah, I'm a developer at heart, someone who likes to code, hack, and tinker and explore. That's kind of what I love to do. And recently joined the developer advocate with Emma literally last week, so this is all brand spanking new. So we're just trying to figure it out as we go along. So exciting times ahead.
Cool. And so for you, the question, what is your best Umbraco moment?
Umbraco moment. I suppose in terms of a personal Umbraco moment is for me is that founder Niels Hartvig jumped on a plane and come and visited me at my house to give me an Umbraco MVP, Lifetime MVP award. Out of the blue, that was nice to just see the founder of the product or the software that we use just turn up at my door. So that was super, super nice.
Okay, that's pretty cool. When was that?
I don't know. That was probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun, Henk.
Exactly. Cool. So let's move on to like the first questions. At least I have, and topics I want to debate with you. So, as my understanding is that the role of developer advocate is quite new in HQ within Umbraco, and you're all new to the role. So basically, you can shape and do whatever you like. And so the question would be, is for every one of you, is how you would define your role. So zoom in a little bit on what you're going to do, how you're going to see the future. So let's start with Arnold first.
Yes, so I already mentioned that I mainly use my role for supporting the Umbraco community festivals worldwide. So yes, in the future, I hope to make physical events happen again. That's my #1 priority to have. But I also want to make sure they are local. Because with this COVID situation, we've seen all meetups and all virtual events go global. But I think it's very nice to have a more local community and a local attendance and local speakers from all of the countries there are events in. And of course, hope to enable other countries where there are no community events yet to have events as well. So yeah, for me, I think that's what is my main future outlook for at least the coming year.
Nice. So your main role would be helping communities to create events.
Yes. So the bigger scale events, not just the meetups. That's not on my task list. Of course, I can help a bit, but it's not. It's the bigger events, and also to help them scale. And for my other advocacy work, I speak to a lot of agencies, partners, but also non-partners on a daily basis to inform them about what we as Umbraco can do for them, how we can work together. And in that role, I also reach out to a lot of developers working at those companies and ask them questions, interact with them, see where they have pain points, see where they succeed because of Umbraco. And I think interacting with a lot of them is really helping. And also, of course, I pass on that information to the ones in Umbraco HQ that can do something with it. So they feel heard and they see results based on interactions. Yeah.
Cool. Emma, the new ones, one of the new ones on the team.
Yes.
So how do you see your role as developer advocate?
It's funny, I don't feel new. That's the funny thing. Must be 5 weeks in and I don't feel new. So my role as developer advocate, I see it very much as an extension of the work I was doing in the community. And I think that we're in quite a privileged position to be beginning in a new role because Umbraco hasn't had developer advocates for long or really until recently. So we're able to shape the role as we see fit. So there's an awful lot of exploration that will go on. For me, it's best that I rely or lean on the things that I've already been doing because I have a real passion for them. So recently, the Speakers Academy was something that I was looking forward to beginning work on, but it's not the first time I've done work in the community to help empower other people to speak. I could speak all day. So for me, it's something that I can do to help others. my interest is in growing the community, and it always has been. So when I worked in the community, the core collaborators team, previously known as the pull request team, my interest was in helping other people to make their first pull requests and helping people to help to take the pain out of any of that process and helping to engage and encourage community members, but also looking for new community members. I've got a real, I mean, for me, I genuinely believe that the bigger the community, the more innovative we can be. And when we make decisions, if we're making decisions based on diverse input, then we are making better decisions. And I think that that's key. So lots of work engaging people to be a part of the community as speakers is one way, but also a nice crossover with the other side of my role on the issue tracker is around pull requests, around issues. You know, if people come across a problem with a product, sometimes they just walk away, and we don't want that. We want there to be some kind of dialogue, some kind of back and forth, a conversation, so that even negative experiences can be turned into something positive. So those are really the kind of two areas that I live in. And workshops is another thing that I've always kind of found myself most comfortable doing. So helping people to learn to speak is one thing, but also helping people to make contributions is key too. The kind of logistical, everyday being a contributor stuff that we all have to learn somehow, even if we've contributed to other open source projects, is to get people engaged in Umbraco. So that's the kind of area that I live in at the moment, and we'll see how that grows.
Cool. Warren, same question for you.
Yep, but like I said, this is brand new, so I'm finding my feet as we go along. So for me, a developer advocate is probably more the technical side of things, maybe as opposed to more the nice collaboration with Emma is more the people and the community and the engagement. But for me, it's more writing technical documentation or creating a video or an example piece of content. And then from there, we can create documentation or give feedback to the product team and listening to people at meetups in terms about their frustrations, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and then either exploring ideas in terms of what we can do in the future. So that's what is my passion and excitement, is to get people engaged with our product in terms of finding maybe new people who haven't discovered Umbraco yet, getting them on board in terms of like Umbraco CMS is really cool. We're coming to .NET Core land very soon. We're going to get a lot more people engaged. Obviously, we're currently on the .NET framework. Not as cool and sexy as all the cool kids would like to be. People fresh out of school, obviously learning .NET Core and maybe not the older technologies. So hopefully we'll entice them and get them infused and excited about Umbraco. So tech and more tech, or content and more content, written, video, documentation. That's going to be my goal. I've already started working with some of the documentation team already in terms of filling gaps that they feel that is lacking, in terms of either helping them with examples or just for them to verify that the documentation is still up to date and things like that. So it's a broad role, and I'm super excited to get my hands dirty.
And what was the last blog you were working? I saw something passing by on Twitter.
Like yes, so literally the last couple of days, I've done a blog post or a video on how we can use GitHub code spaces, which is future tech. This is all kind of experimental and future down the line, but this allows us, anyone in the community in the future, to go to GitHub in the browser, click opening code spaces, which is the equivalent of opening in Visual Studio Code, so a lightweight IDE. And then from there, new contributors will be able to contribute directly to the Umbraco source code. So they won't need to worry about SQL Server, setting up Node, setting up all the other random dependencies that we currently have. It will just make people's lives a lot more easier. So yeah, and just as a challenge to myself, I decided, well, I have an iPad as a browser. Why not code in the browser on an iPad? I wouldn't recommend it though. Is the takeaway? No, it can be done.
Cool. So that was a nice introduction. So we got to know everyone a little bit, what we're going to do, see a little bit about the future. And I see in my Zoom webinar that John Sato has his hand raised. And I think I should be able to get him on screen by doing something. So I'm going to try that. Or maybe Arnold can just help me and just throw him on the screen for me so that he can ask his question.
Yeah, I'll try. You should be able to, John, you should be able to ask your question.
Hi, John.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button.
Hi, John. Thanks for that.
Hi.
Make something up.
This is your chance.
Yeah.
Okay, right, so off the top of my head, how did you become a developer advocate? That's for both Warren and Emma.
That's a really good, fast-thinking question. Thanks, John. I guess I'll answer first, since I encouraged the fast thinking. I became a developer advocate. I think it was very difficult to kind of marry the two things that I did in tech together in many ways. So being a developer all day and then going to meetups in the evening, or being working outside of work on contributor teams and things like that. It worked and it stimulated all the sides of my interests. I was quite happy with it. But when it came to making a choice as to what to do next, for me, I knew that I needed to bring my people, my obsession with people, into my job role somehow. So the right job for me was always going to be one where I work with others. So I guess for me, it's been a journey of doing the thing and then getting a job to do the thing. And I'm in a uniquely brilliant position in that when I spoke to HQ a while ago saying, I think you are all awesome and I'd love to work with you one day. here's the kind of thing I can do. They shared my vision, and that's marvelous, because it does mean I get to marry the technical and the people side of things. So I guess that's it. But it's such a new discipline. It's that when I came into tech and I saw on Twitter there were these people called developer advocates, I thought, how did you end up doing that? That sounds like an amazing role. It's all the things. So yeah, really grateful to end up here, hoping to live up to the challenge. But thankfully, because it's a new profession, people are talking, people outside of the Umbraco community too. There's lots of knowledge sharing that goes on. So eager to learn. We'll see where that takes me. I'll hand to you, Warren, who is here on my screen.
Thank you very much. Yes, so in terms of like Emma, kind of fortunate to kind of find myself in this role. It was, I suppose, the last 6 or 7 years. Obviously, I've been working at Umbraco the second time around as a developer in the core team. And me as a person, I get more fun or exploration in terms of hacking or coming up with future concepts or ideas. And I was just very fortunate that the bosses up above, shall we say, was in agreement that maybe this is how I better spend my time, that I can explore and engage other people with technical examples and engage our community. As much as I love to do a bug fix from time to time, it's probably not my jam. It's not what I wake up in the morning to fix that really tricky bug. I would rather have my head down in exploring and finding how we can marry Umbraco with some other technology. That's what gets me out of bed every day. Thanks for the question, John, though.
Arnold, do you also want to answer?
Well, I can answer, but my role is more logical, because I've been organizing the Dutch Umbraco Community User Group Festival for the last few years. together with someone else in this panel, actually, Henk. And for that way, when I joined Umbraco, yeah, well, we discussed that it would be good for me to help other festival organizers to extend the knowledge on how to run events, to help them create new ones and all that alike. So yeah, that's how I rolled into that part of my role.
Cool. So thanks, John. That was an excellent question. Next, in our prep talk, we came about some teams that are within Umbraco and a community. And I think, Emma, you mentioned the community happiness team. Can you tell us what that is and how it works? How do you get part of it?
Yes, so the community happiness team is relatively new, although arguably it's old. It's just a new name for something that people across the company were already doing. And it's a handful of me and my colleagues who are mostly part-time, but not entirely part-time. So part of our role will be in a designated department, and then some of the time we'll be working in the community happiness. And we've got representatives, well, there's us three. Ilham is our commander-in-chief, so she's in charge of the community happiness team. She's obviously full-time looking at that. And we've got Shanice from Coma too. So we try, and Trina, who's organising Co-Garden, we try to have lots of representatives, and our aims are really to ensure that community engagement is positive. It's good, we're thriving. We are, it's a formalised title for people who care. And our aim is just to make sure that the community is indeed happy. That might involve lots of contributions to the repository, or it might involve lots of people going to meetups. It kind of stretches all ends of the spectrum. And there's been a handful of things that we've already achieved in a relatively short amount of time. Should I carry on, or should I let somebody else speak?
You can carry on. That's good.
Cool. So the first thing that we did was the code of conduct, a brand new code of conduct for Umbraco events that's been adopted widely. Meetup organisers, festival organisers, by HQ2. It was born out of a need, or somebody actually at one of your events, Henk and Arnold, flagged that the current code of conduct was vague. Although I don't know that was her exact words, but that was certainly the gist of it. It was vague. And as a result, myself and Carol from the community too, Erica, we got in touch with HQ and said, what can we do about this? And in a matter of weeks, we put together a team and put a new code of conduct out. And it was a pet project, certainly for me. I've existed in this community for 6 years. It's always been very friendly. By and large, my experiences have been positive. But as a new person coming to the community, you want to know that there are safeguards in place. You want to know that people are committed to your safety, whether it's virtual events or real life events. That's key. So we hope that by putting together a code of conduct based on the contributor covenant too, which means, this is something that's evolving, it's growing, and it's tried and tested. It's been adopted by lots of tech organizations, and we've adapted it to suit our community. It really means that people from the outside looking in are just that much more likely to come in, and I want to grow the community, so that's key for me. So yeah, it's quite a broad task. That's where our efforts were at the beginning of the community happiness team, and it involved both internal staff members and external. I was in the community at the time, so external community members too.
Yeah, I was part of it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've saw the whole process, and I've kind of found it fascinating how it went from idea, or kind of issue that was raised by the community, by a community member, hey, your code of conduct is not actionable. Yes, it just describes how we want to be as a group, which is a good thing, of course, but there were no actions. Then we saw the community picking it up. Can you explain a little bit more how that process went? So what did you do? How did you actually got to raise that question?
So we started by assembling a group of people who were interested, and we didn't stop there because we were quite conscious that between us we might agree. We might furiously all agree with each other. So we used our clank board, which is my Dutch that I learned especially for this session, which is for non-Dutch speakers. That's our sounding board. That's a sort of group of people that we can bounce ideas off. And we spoke to the MVPs. And we ran our first draft past the MVPs. And I think that was key, actually, because right there we have a group of people, 65 people who are engaged in the community. You know, they've received our award for the work that they've done. It's a great place to start. And we had so much feedback. We had lots and lots of feedback to work with. Then we were able to work that into the code of conduct. And then I think it was 7th of December that we published it, and it was in October that the issue was raised. So it was a super quick turnaround. And then Arnold, you worked on adoption.
Yeah, mainly currently now with the US Festival is the first community event that is adopting our new code of conduct. Quite happy by that. And of course, for their event, they should be listed in their code of conduct, and they should look, and as an event organizer, you need to look at the text and run through, because some things make sense for HQ events, but might not make sense for a community event. And then if people reach out to the event organizers when there's a breach, then we as HQ can help out. So we won't be first in line there, but we can imagine that event organizers have some problems with certain situations that they want advice on, and well, we can help them with that.
We've got enforcement is another category that we're looking at currently too, because it's not a very nice word, enforcement, but these things need to be, you know, a code of conduct should be actionable. And I think there are 4 of us going on training this weekend in order to make sure that at the other end of the code of conduct, if anything's reported, people are able to handle situations appropriately. So.
And how are you going to get that knowledge that you now have as a team to the festival organizers? Because you can make like a code of conduct and say copy paste it, but festival organizers have to understand it. They have to understand why they want to have this, how to put a team together, and so on. So do you have any plans for that?
Yes. So for example, now with US festival organizers, I've talked with them about, they already had a basic code of conduct before, but it wasn't up to what we expect these days, or what indeed community expects. So I ran with them through the new code of conduct and why there is enforcement in there and how they can use it. And of course, we don't expect festival organizers to be fully up to speed with handling the code of conduct in the proper way. So like Emma said, we will have training ourselves, extra training, actually this Saturday on code of conduct. And if this is a training that we can offer to others, like festival organizers, we might do that. Or if we can share that knowledge ourselves and make some guidance on that or training ourselves, we will do that. It depends on how this training is and what we get out of it. So everything we learn, and also everything we learn by handling certain events that happen or certain incidents that happen, we will pass on or use to help the festival organizers.
One thing that we've heard from meetup organizers is that it's actually incredibly cool for there to be something for them to work from, because at the moment, or what's been happening is people have code of conduct, but they have to come up with them by themselves. And since we're a community and we're in the spirit of open source, it does make sense that we share, that we do something centrally that people can then work from. So it's been really positive. Meetup organizers have been happy to adopt the code of conduct, but also because one of the things that we've been doing for meetup organizers is making our Zoom account available to organizers. People joining Umbraco meetups through said Zoom account are agreeing to the code of conduct too. So that's already there for them. An awful lot of the work has been done for organisers. So I think by and large, people are quite pleased. It's something that they can work from.
Yeah, me as an organizer, I'm very happy that we can just pull it out and use it and have like this this thing that it is everywhere the same at the Umbraco event, so that even as a visitor, you can go to all these different types and you know that it's kind of the same, yeah, code of conduct way of how things can be handled and things can be raised if things are not fun. So that's cool. So let's move to some questions. We have one here in the chat, which you all three can answer. How much are you missing in-person meetup and events? Emma.
Oh, so much. I mean, I'm struggling with it. I really am struggling. I don't find the Zoom experience comparable. I think it's a great alternative. I'm really glad that we've managed to stay together in the ways that we have. And I think it's got some incredible positives too, in that we are way more accessible than we were when we all had to fly to Denmark to meet once a year, etc., etc. There were lots of, I've been to Co-Garden many times and heard it raised that there are parts of the UK that don't have a meetup within hours, you know, so within several hours drive. So how do we reach people like that? Well, Zoom. So I'm really glad that we do have this alternative. But I do find it difficult missing the events. And I think one of the things that we're keen to try and create for this Co-Garden, any suggestions would be welcome, is the chat between the talks. Because when you have an event that's live, you know, it's content delivery, and sometimes it's participative too. Is that a word? Well, sometimes there's participation too. And, but you miss the chat between the talks. And I think that for a lot of people, that was one of their favorite aspects of events. So yeah, pros and cons. I love that we're reaching places we couldn't reach. I genuinely think that we have welcomed new people to the community that never could have joined our community in the old world. And as a result, we'll see them when we return to physical meetups. But I hope we'll always have a thriving Zoom presence for meetups. I think that's going to be key going forward, not just because of COVID, but because of what we've managed to build here. But personally, I miss it. I miss it terribly. We're making do, but I miss my people.
Hey, you, Warren.
Yeah, I probably echo Emma's thoughts really. As much as Zoom is a great alternative for our current climate, I really do miss in-person meetups. It's the, I suppose, not the one-on-ones, but the smaller groups of conversations that you can have in person is a little easier, shall we say, than, I don't know, 20, 30 people all on a Zoom call. Sometimes you get those awkward silences. It's just, I think it's nice to have these in-person conversations like, what have you been working on? Or what's exciting at the minute? Yeah, it's just not quite the same on Zoom. I don't think we can replicate it just quite yet. Maybe one day.
And you, Arnold?
I have not that much to add to this. I think most of the things has been said. I miss them. I miss events a lot. And for me, it's even double with my role because I work from the Netherlands as a Benelux partner manager. And one of the reasons to work from the Netherlands was that I would be able to step into my car and visit the various agencies and be there in person. And I think there was 1 month and maybe 2 weeks somewhere later in the year that I was able to do that. So I can't even do, I can't organize events in a physical way, and I can't visit partners in a physical way. So yeah, it doesn't really matter that I'm now working for HQ from the Netherlands. So I hope that we'll return to normal in a few months.
Yeah, let's hope it goes back to at least some way of that we can be together. Let's move on to like the next topic. So we had some questions, and also Dave just asked a question through the Q&A thing. And it is about your plans as a developer advocate team, how you're going to help developers. And the specific question is, how are you going to help the community make the transition to the .NET Core version, especially package managers? And the other insight is, the question was, how are you going to help developers that are new to Umbraco? So
I can probably jump in terms of at least helping answer the package manager and the transition. Literally, this is something I am doing as of next week. We are getting very close to having some alpha versions ready for package developers to get involved in. So I'm going to take the same process as our package development community and try and migrate some of my older packages. So this would be finding the pain points that our developers are going to have, and then feeding that back into documentation, either video tutorials in terms of, right, okay, this is how you've done it previously in version 8. This is where we've moved your cheese to in version 9. So it's going to be an exciting project for me. This kind of stuff is hopefully a nice project in terms of helping transition and keep the enthusiasm alive, get everyone excited for .NET Core and version 9, and really helping anyone who is struggling doing package migration. I suppose anyone who is listening to this, I am more than happy if you reach out to me. If you've got any questions or qualms, let me know. I will happily help you out. I don't know what the other part of the question was though, Henk, so yeah. I'll let Emma jump in.
I was going to add to that and just say that's where I stand. It's questions and qualms. It's one of the massive benefits of having spent so many years in the community is that people aren't backwards about coming forwards and sharing their pain points. I think it's, whilst Warren will be doing the very technical work of prototyping and being a package dev and seeing what it could be, I'm also here for you to tell me where the pain points are. And I've lived through the last, when version 8 was released, and I think, you know, there's loads of learnings that have come up for people internally and externally. But this time around, you have a team of people who are saying, talk to me as well. So, you know, that's us. So don't be backwards about coming forward, you let us know. And we've also seen some incredible community engagement already around .NET Core. So the .NET Core team are there, you know, they're blogging, they're talking, putting things on Twitter too. There's so much going on that's completely transparent, you know, it's all there. There are things for you to go and play with. There's opportunities for you to contribute to documentation, to the code base, and the packages team too. And what we saw Steve Temple do recently was just fantastic. It's those case studies that we're looking for. I can't promise that I'm going to do one of my own, although I've got something in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, I could build that on .NET Core. But for everyone that does do it and shares about it, we take away more learning. So, comms.
And is there like a way for you say developers can contact me, so that will probably be a private tweet or a message on Slack. But how you want to handle that? How are you handling questions so that also other developers can benefit from the same questions? And
the short answer is that we're not really, and I'm glad that you raised it because it hadn't occurred to me. It's easy enough for me to say that you can reach me wherever, but if you don't know me, then that's not true. And I think it's probably very important that, I mean, one of the things that I'm grateful for is that I know an awful lot of people in the community because I've spent a lot of time here, but that doesn't mean that I know everyone. So perhaps we could look at creating some kind of centralized point where things can reach the developer advocates. And I guess we should put that to the community to see what works for them. You know, we have community members that aren't on Twitter. Like, you know, so yeah. I mean, I'm on Twitter, Slack, LinkedIn, but yeah, there should be something central.
Yeah, so I recently learned a few things, which I've been also in the community for 6-7 years, I guess, now. And I just learned, like last year, there was a community Slack.
Oh, really?
Yes. And mostly it is not. If I don't know it, there are other people that don't know it, and there is also a Facebook page where questions are being raised. Are you actively on those pages answering and searching for questions and going to answer them, or do you expect to be tagged or somehow emailed? Or
I can tell you what I do, but this definitely won't speak for everyone. I'm a lurker on the Umbraco community Slack, so I'm there, but I rarely say anything. It's an information gathering exercise for me, and I'll say the odd good morning or message somebody. I spend most of my time in Code Cabin Slack, which is a community group, but of course it's for particular people that attended Code Cabin. I have the Umbraco hashtag open on TweetDeck, and my biggest point of engagement with the community is the issue tracker. That's been my kind of way of funneling in. You know, I can see what people are asking about, I can see what people need, I can see what people are trying to do and trying to build. So that's probably the most exposure I get, other than going to, and I'm at meetups in my little box in Zoom, where you can talk to me with your voice or through chat. But yeah, I didn't know there was a Facebook group. And the difficult thing about being in said groups is because they are moderated by community members and not by HQ, we also have to be mindful that if we have different code of conduct, there could be issues that arise there. So there's all kinds of, if we create a presence in certain places, then do we then monitor, do we then have to start looking at the kind of dialogue that goes on? So I kind of treat it like I lurk. It's better for me to lurk.
But you also mentioned, Emma, that not everybody is on Twitter. And so one thing that surprised me actually a bit is that I talk to partners on a daily basis, right? And there are so many developers at partners that none of us knows about. I mean, I've been to agencies I've been meeting with agencies of 50 to 100 people with 20, 30 Umbraco developers where none were on Twitter or were using even our Umbraco or the issue tracker. And so with all my talks I have, so in my double role, I do inform them about the community Slack, about Umbraco Coffee, about the issue tracker, how they can contribute and all that stuff. And that's also something that needs to be done more probably to show everybody that there is more and remind them of that. Because if you look back at Umbraco 8 years ago, we weren't this organized, we weren't this big of an organization, and a lot had to be asked through our forum, but that's you first have to find it. So I think these days a big entry point is also GitHub, for example, instead of our Umbraco. So they might not even find our Umbraco unless they come across it somewhere else. So yeah, I have a full list of community initiatives and connection points that I send out to all my partners, for example.
One of the things that we have with UK partners is that they are interested in the community and are looking for a place to start. So some of the conversations that I've been having are around how we can speak to partners whose devs are not involved in the community, but would like to be, because their company obviously has a commitment to the product. So it makes sense that the developers might, be able to get the time to go to events and so on and so on. So looking at kind of going and speaking to those developers, that's one way to, bring new people in too, and to support new people. They need to know we're here.
And it's as simple as maybe just creating issues, if you have some. I speak to so many agencies that have certain issues with Umbraco, and then I tell them, did you report them? Can I? Should I? Yeah, well, that's the first step to move forward. If you don't tell us, we won't fix it. You can sometimes they tell me that they have issues for years, and I'm like, we aren't aware because it's quite an edge case. If you just have written an issue on our issue tracker, we could have fixed it, or maybe even guide you into fixing it yourself and making your first pull request. So just creating an issue is a very easy way in that a lot of people don't seem to use.
So I think I heard you all say that the best place to raise a question or an if you have an issue with something, is go to GitHub. Go to the repository, raise a question. That is a way you will always see it. And then, yeah, Emma?
Well, yeah, and from there, sometimes we will say, have you seen our forum? Perhaps the community can help. And so, but the issue tracker is a great place to start. And for a lot of new users and developers, that is the first thing that they will see now, rather than the forum. So it's kind of balancing between the two worlds. You know, we'll never be upset to see an issue that says, where can I find information about? And we're actually in perfectly placed to say the documentation or the forum. So we may do that, but we see a lot more engagement on the issue tracker these days.
So there was one question about the forum, about the forums. So I will rephrase the question. Do you think it is your job to watch the forum and moderate it and picking up pain points from there? Or is that not something you're going to do? Anyone who has a comment can jump on that.
As much as I would love to spend all day, every day, sitting on the forum, helping answering the questions to the community, I just don't think it's feasible in terms of or sustainable, really. I think the forum is a place for the community to help one another. Yes, we may come by and, like Emma says, lurk from time to time. We'll try and see what conversations or popular conversations are maybe bubbling up. But normally anything that is, say, important or critical tends to then get moved to GitHub naturally anyway. And then from there, we as HQ or as a company then can form a response if it needs a response. But me personally, I wouldn't expect to see me there every day answering loads of questions as much as I would love to. And I'm not saying I won't, but from time to time I will jump in and obviously help here and there. But it's not part of the job to just sit in the forum and reply to questions all day.
Excellent. Then we have two more questions. I think one question we already answered, but we can kind of wrap it up and answer it again. As someone unsure about what developer DevRel is, what kind of things can we community members use Warren and Emma for? And I was triggered by the word use. So let's start with Emma.
I quite liked the word use. I saw that and thought, oh. I think that what you used us for before is the best possible answer. So what were we doing before we were in this role should dictate really how you wish to communicate with us now. There's a very good chance that in the next 6 months, you'll see us working on new initiatives and different ways of engaging people, in which case, if something pricks your interest, then come and see us. But really, it's the kind of three-pronged approach to the role. You know, there's product feedback. So if you want to tell me something that I will take to the D team and, you know, we can look at getting into a sprint for any reason, then tell me. Sometimes telling me is posting an issue on the issue tracker, by the way, do be mindful of that. Then there's a kind of, I keep saying growing the community, but it really is about community engagement and community health. You know, are we happy in the community? Are we thriving? Are we being innovative? Are we supporting each other? Are we collaborating? And then finally, there's the content side of things. Usually my content will be giving a talk, doing a workshop, the odd blog, it's exactly what you knew me for before, if you knew me before. And anything that falls under the DevRel umbrella, really, but those are certainly my strong points. That's where you'll see most of me.
Right. There, Warren.
Yep. So for me, yeah, I think you can find me, like Emma said, if you want to reach out to me. Just because I've changed role doesn't mean you now can no longer reach me or contact me. If you've got that cool thing that you've built and want to demo to me, I would still love to see it. Please do. But yeah, for me, if you want to use me, would be to any problems with the product, anything that you see as being problematic. I think in terms of, say, for example, this package development spike or kind of focus that I'm going to be working on. If you feel as a package developer, you're really struggling to migrate, then feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to see kind of what is the problem, how we can help you. Is it something that we currently can't do in the CMS? And is it something that we do need to fix? So yeah, just reach out to me, however that may be. Carry a pigeon, I don't mind. Throw something at me, I don't mind. You'll figure it out.
Nice. Yeah, we're almost coming to an end. We still have like 5-6 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about helping communities. We talked already a little bit about the bigger festivals. You can reach out to Arnold. But I'm also quite interested in what kind of help HQ is offering with those festivals. And also if there is someone here that would like to start an Umbraco community. Like it's a new person in a new country, just heard about Umbraco and wants to start a meetup to share knowledge. How can we do that? And I think let's first start with the bigger festivals, with the bigger events, and then move to Emma, I think, because you are doing more the growing community part. So Arnold.
Yeah. So with the bigger events that are happening or that people want to organize, we first offer some meetings and to get information about what they want to do, what kind of involvement they would like to see. And from an HQ standpoint, most of it will be me. I will be joining in on meetings. I will be giving guidance on the whole process. You can talk to me about HQ speakers you would like to see. And maybe you want some speakers that we can't or that are not available, but then I can give alternatives. I can help to find other speakers that maybe are not from Umbraco, but from the community that can add something to it. We can even help with some financial backing, depending on how big your event is and what your plans are and how serious you are. For that, we always would like to see foundation-based events. So not just one company organizing it, but a group of companies or a group of people actually from the community that join in the foundation form and organize things. So it's really a community event, and it's not driven by agencies that want to push their agenda onto an event. But we can also help with finding other sponsors. We have a package ecosystem with commercial packages, and some of those are more than willing to sponsor certain type of events. So yeah, from the start to the finish, we can help out and hold your hand a bit. Of course, we hope that that they will graduate and can do a lot of things on their own at some point. But there are certainly ways that we can help as they expect.
Nice. And Emma, the new community members.
Yeah, so it's more hand-holding from me too, essentially. One of the things we need to do is find people who are interested in joining the community. So I think we've done a lot of work around creating a space that is welcoming for new people. And that's your groundwork, that's your foundation. But then reaching people who wouldn't necessarily find us otherwise is a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. One of the ways that we've aimed to do that is looking at events that are outside of the Umbraco calendar. So I was at Microsoft Ignite recently with 3 community members talking about the joys of contributing to open source and making sure that we attend wider meetups so that we can introduce people, not poaching people, but just let them know that there's a friendly community of them too. There's also going to speaking to developers who work at partners who are obviously working with Umbraco and should know that we have a thriving community. Trina has done so much work around meetup organizers too, helping to facilitate them in practical ways. She would want me to tell you that she is always there too, so well, not 24/7. None of us are here 24/7, by the way, so don't get too excited. But always there for feedback, always there for questions. We want to take as many of the pain points out of organizing community events as possible. I've already mentioned that you can use our code of conduct and our Zoom account too, so that makes it free. One of the ways, it's a pro, yeah, so you can do it for more than 40 minutes. Imagine that.
I mean, there is also the Meetup Pro account.
Oh, okay. Yes, there's a Meetup Pro account too. And then we have so the Speakers Academy is a kind of, it's an aim to get new voices on stage, as it were. It's not really stage when it's Zoom. Sometimes it's not stage when it's a meetup. But one of our commitments is to it's raising voices that are otherwise marginalized in technology. And the more we do that, the more kind of innovation, ideas and diversity that we'll actually see in our attendees. And Speakers Academy is designed with that in mind. You know, what can we do to help you take the stage? And one of the things that we have planned for later in the year, because tech people love tech solutions, and being a tech person, is a site where we can help match people with speakers. So the .NET Foundation has an incredible one where people who want to give talks are able to submit their areas of interest, areas of expertise, and meetup organizers can go and ask if people are interested in coming to speak. There's lots of work being done too to kind of pair meetup organizers with others. We have some very experienced meetup organizers and brand new ones. And as is always the case with this community, people are willing to share their time, willing to collaborate, and we hope to be able to encourage that. So I think that's what we're doing. I think the key is when people come, we make sure that they're welcome. And I haven't been to an Umbraco meetup this year where people aren't acknowledged. You know, they come into the room, we acknowledge them, we say hello. We're all doing that. And let's face it, we're not all extroverts, but we're all doing that. And I think we just have to carry on. I think, yes, for that.
That is an excellent statement and way of how to look at it. So, and actually to close this community office hours with that. So I want to, if there are no more questions in all my windows, I see no more questions, then I would like to thank you all for being here and sharing everything you shared today. Everyone else, feel empowered to reach out to them. They're here to help in all the different ways, from the partners, from the technical community. They're all here. And if you have feedback, use the GitHub issue tracker I just learned. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you, Hank, for hosting this event.
Hank. What a star. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Bye.